parents abandoned me at 16. Years later, they begged me for a place to live. They threw me out at 16. I rebuilt everything. Now they're homeless and begging me for help. What would you do? If you've ever been gaslit by your own family, kicked out before you were even old enough to vote, and then watched those same people try to claw their way back into your life the moment you made something of yourself, then you'll probably understand the anger and weird satisfaction I feel right now. Because that's exactly what happened to me. And now my parents are knocking on my door like nothing happened, begging for help they never gave me when I needed it most. And I don't know if I should slam the door in their faces or let them feel the success they never believed I'd have. Here's what went down. You know how sometimes you look back and realize the warning signs were always there, blinking in neon, but you were too young or too desperate for love to notice? That was me. I grew up in a pretty Avenger suburban household. 2 parents, 1 older brother, dog, white picket fence, the whole catalog. From the outside, we were fine. Not perfect, but fine. My brother, Liam, was the golden child. He could burn the kitchen down trying to make toast and somehow still be praised for being curious. Meanwhile, I got grounded for leaving my laundry in the machine too long. I wasn't a bad kid. Quiet, kept to myself, read a lot. I did well in school, helped around the house, and basically did everything I could to stay out of trouble. But the thing is, when someone's already decided you're the problem, you can be a saint and they'll still find a way to crucify you. And Liam? He knew that. Oh, he thrived on that. He was 2 years older and had this slick charm he could switch on and off like a light. With teachers, neighbors, my parents, he was Mr. Perfect. But with me, he was the completely fake around me. Subtle stuff at first. Telling our parents I said things I didn't. Blaming me when stuff went missing around the house. Messing with my head me until I started questioning my own memory. And the worst part? My parents believed every damn word. I can still remember one night when I was maybe 14, curled up in bed with headphones on, trying to drown out the sound of my parents arguing over something Liam had overheard me say. Something about how I supposedly threatened to run away or do something dumb if they didn't buy me a new phone. Absolute lie. I hadn't even talked about phones that week. But he said it with such conviction that my mom looked me dead in the eye the next morning and said, "We raised you better than this." And that was that. But I was just a kid, so I stayed. I tried harder. Tried to be better. Thought if I just did everything right, they'd finally see me. Spoiler alert, they didn't. I was 16 when it all came crashing down. Still a kid, still under their roof, still stupid enough to think that family means protection. That year was already rough. Liam was home less and less, doing study nights and group projects, which I later learned were just excuses to go smoke and hook up with girls behind some grocery store parking lot. But to my parents, he was grinding for college, making something of himself, whatever that meant. Me? I was just trying to get through school without losing my mind. I'd finally joined the debate team, started making friends, even got invited to a sleepover, a huge deal for someone like me. I thought, maybe, just maybe, things were turning around. Then came the lie. It was a Wednesday. Normal day. I got home from school, dropped my bag, made a sandwich, and went to my room. My parents weren't home. Liam was, though. I remember because I heard him laughing on the phone, probably talking to one of his girls. I didn't think much of it. That night, my mom comes into my room with this look on her face, some mix of betrayal and disgust that made my stomach drop before she even opened her mouth. She sat on my bed and said, "We need to talk." According to Liam, he found something in my backpack. A little Ziploc bag with something suspicious. He claimed he found it when I left my bag on the kitchen chair. Said he was worried about me, that I might be making dangerous choices. Told them he didn't want to believe it, but felt he had to say something because he cared. I laughed. Like, full-on laugh because it was so absurd. I'd never even seen harmful substances in real life, let alone touch them. I was the kind of kid who felt guilty sneaking an extra cookie. But the more I denied it, the more they looked at me like I was lying to them. And then my dad pulled the bag out of his jacket. I froze. It was my backpack. It was my handwriting on the little notebook. But I didn't put that there. I swore on everything. I didn't even know where people found that kind of stuff. I begged them to believe me. My mom kept shaking her head like she was trying to shake me out of her life. My dad didn't even yell. Just looked at me with this quiet shame and said, "We can't have this in our home." It didn't matter that I'd never failed a test, never been caught sneaking out, never even cursed in front of them. Liam's word had weight, and mine was just noise. They didn't call the cops, thank God, but they did tell me to pack a bag and leave. Said I could go to my aunt's until I figured myself out. Except, plot twist, my aunt was on a trip abroad, and I had nowhere else to go. So that night, I walked out with a duffel bag and $60 in birthday money I'd stashed away. And Liam? He watched from the porch, arms crossed, smirking like the manipulator he was. He set me up. No doubt in my mind. He set me up with something fake. He knew my parents would believe him, and they did. Without hesitation, no second chances. No conversation. Just gone. I had nowhere to stay that night. You ever spend a night outside in the middle of fall with nothing but a hoodie and a half-zip duffel bag for warmth? It humbles you real quick. I didn't cry that night. I was too numb, too stunned, too busy trying to process how my entire life had flipped in one evening because of a lie my brother cooked up like it was a game. I just laid there, staring at the sky through the branches, thinking, what the hell do I do now? The next few weeks were chaos. I bounced between crashing at a couple friends' places, mostly people from school who didn't ask too many questions and had parents who worked late or didn't notice an extra body on the couch. I was terrified every day. Terrified someone would call CPS. Terrified my school would find out and call my parents. Terrified that they would try to bring me back just to lock me away or fix me. But nothing happened. No calls. No searches. Just silence. It was like I never existed. Eventually, I ran out of couches to crash on. I tried going to a shelter, but they said they didn't have space for minors without an adult. I stayed near public places for a couple nights, stealing power from an outdoor outlet to charge my cracked phone. The one lifeline I had left. I would have disappeared completely if it weren't for Ms. Reyes, my English teacher. She was the first adult in my life to actually see me. I guess she noticed I'd stopped turning in assignments. Started showing up late. I stunk. My uniform was wrinkled. I was quiet, but not in the usual introvert way. Quiet in that hollow, barely holding it together way. One day she asked me to stay after class and just said, "You okay?" I broke. Not with words, but with tears. Just sobbed right there at her desk while she silently handed me a tissue. No judgment, no lecture. I told her everything. She didn't call the cops. Didn't send me home. She made some calls, pulled some strings, and got me connected to a youth program that specialized in kids like me, teens kicked out, tossed aside, chewed up by their families and left to fend for themselves. They found me a temporary placement with a foster family, a woman named Trina who ran a group home for kids like me. She wasn't sweet, but she was fair. The first thing she said to me was, "You don't have to explain anything, just don't steal, don't fight, and you'll be safe here." I could have cried again. I stayed there for 2 years. Finished high school. Got a part-time job at a local diner. Learned how to file taxes, budget for groceries, and even apply for college, all with zero help from the people who were supposed to guide me through that chapter. At 18, I got into a trade program for graphic design, something I'd always been good at but never thought I could do professionally. Thanks to a scholarship and a couple of amazing mentors, I graduated top of my class. Got an internship, then a full-time job. By 22, I had a stable income, my own apartment, and a freelance side hustle that paid more than my full-time job some months. I traveled. I got a dog. I found friends who felt more like family than my blood ever did. I built a life from scratch. And through all of it, not a single word from Liam. Not a text, not a fake apology. Nothing. My parents? Silent too. Until I ended up in a magazine. I wasn't even trying to get noticed. I was just doing what I loved, designing, freelancing, slowly carving out a little place in the world where I didn't feel disposable. My big break came when I got hired to work on a campaign for a well-known streetwear brand. It was edgy, bold, and somehow landed me a tiny write-up in a design magazine. Just a paragraph, really. But it had my name, my face, my story, well, part of it. The article said I was self-made, a designer who overcame early adversity to build a career rooted in raw, unfiltered storytelling. It didn't mention being kicked out, didn't mention the duffel bag. But apparently, it was enough, because 3 days after the article dropped, my phone lit up with a number I hadn't seen in years. Mom. I stared at the screen so long it went dark. Then came the texts. "We saw the article. You've made us so proud. We always knew you had talent. Your brother showed us. He's been following your work." That last one made my blood boil. Liam, the same lying manipulator who torched my life for sport? Now he was following my career? Like I was some podcast he casually subscribed to between ruining lives? I didn't respond. I didn't know how to respond. But I should have known. It wasn't just a congrats text. That was the warm-up. A week later, I got a DM from Liam. Short, cold, like he'd accidentally slipped into my messages after forgetting I wasn't blocked. Mom and Dad aren't doing great financially. They're gonna reach out. Just saying. Just like that. The same people who left me to sleep under trees and beg for food were suddenly not doing great and wanted to talk. And talk they did. My mom called again. My dad, too. Emails came next, long-winded ones filled with words like family, healing, and help. They wanted to meet. Talk things out. Maybe I could come by the house sometime, which they conveniently still lived in, while I had to claw my way up from shelters and roommates. Then the ask came. We were wondering if you might be able to help us with a loan, just something small to cover some repairs. Liam's been trying, but you know how unstable the job market is. I laughed so hard I actually startled my dog. Liam? The same brother who shoved me out of my own life with planted harmful substances and crocodile tears was now struggling to keep a job. And my parents, who threw me out without even waiting for proof, without even trying to believe me, wanted money from me. The daughter they left behind. I didn't even know what to say. I closed the email, let it sit. But that night, I laid awake, just staring at the ceiling, not because I was debating giving them anything. That was a hard no. But because this whole situation unearthed something in me I thought I buried. Anger. Not the white-hot teenage anger I had when I left, but this quiet, bitter anger that simmered behind every success I'd earned. They didn't just abandon me. They never came looking, not once. No second thoughts. Just silence. Until I became someone they could brag about. Their daughter, the successful designer. The one they kicked out because they couldn't bother to fact-check a single lie. And now? Now I was supposed to forget all that because their precious golden boy couldn't pay rent? Nah. So yeah, against my better judgment, or maybe because I needed closure, I agreed to meet them. Not at their house. Not even in our hometown. I picked a neutral spot. A quiet cafe about an hour out. Somewhere public enough that things couldn't escalate but far enough that no one would recognize us. I didn't tell them I was bringing someone. My roommate turned best friend, Jess, came with. She wasn't going to sit with us, just hang out nearby with her laptop. But knowing she was there made me feel like I had a parachute strapped to my back in case the plane caught fire midair. They arrived late, of course. Mom in pearls, Dad in his faded polo, both trying so hard to look like good people. And Liam. Liam actually came wearing sunglasses indoors like some low-budget influencer trying to hide a hangover. The audacity of this man to even show up after everything. I almost walked out right then. But I didn't. I sat. They sat. And we all stared at each other like strangers on a blind date from hell. Look at you, my mom said first, her voice syrupy and strained. You've grown into such a beautiful young woman. I wanted to scream. I wanted to ask if I looked just as beautiful when I was curled up outside a gas station bathroom at 17. Trying not to cry loud enough to attract attention, but I didn't. I smiled. Tightly, thanks. There was some awkward chit-chat. My job. The weather. How proud they were when they saw the article. Then Liam finally spoke. We should talk about the past, he said, leaning back like he was bored already. Water under the bridge, right? And that's when I lost my cool. Water under the bridge? I repeated, my voice low and sharp. You planted harmful substances in my backpack, Liam. You made our parents think I was some junkie. I was 16. You ruined my life. He didn't flinch. Just shrugged. I was a kid, too. People make mistakes. My dad chimed in, of course. What matters is we all want to move forward now. I turned to him. Do you? Because when I was sleeping behind a library, eating crackers for dinner, you didn't call. You didn't check if I was alive. We thought you needed space, my mom said. You seemed angry, Al. I was on my own. Silence. Like real. Suffocating silence. For a moment, no one knew what to say. I could tell they hadn't expected me to say it out loud. To remind them of the parts they'd edited out of their fantasy reunion. Then came the real reason we were there. So, Dad finally said, clearing his throat, we've had some rough patches. Your mother's job got cut. The house needs repairs. Liam's had a tough time since the pandemic. I held up a hand. Stop. I know why we're here. You want money. They didn't deny it. My mom looked down at her tea. My dad stared straight at me. Liam? He looked annoyed. After everything you put me through, I said slowly, deliberately. You want me to pretend it never happened and write you a check? We're still your family, my mom whispered. And that's when it hit me, hard and hollow. No, you're not, I said. Family doesn't throw you out over a rumor. Family doesn't go radio silent for 6 years until you show up in a magazine. Family doesn't only reach out when they're broke. They didn't cry. No shouting. Just a sort of stunned, deflated look, like they realized they had misjudged the situation entirely. I stood up, grabbed my bag, and looked right at Liam. I hope your lies were worth it. Then I walked out. Jess was waiting by the car. I didn't cry. I didn't anger. I just sat there, letting the weight of everything settle. The confrontation hadn't given me closure, exactly, but it gave me clarity. I owed them nothing. Leaving that cafe felt like closing the final page of a book I should have stopped reading years ago. It didn't feel victorious. It didn't feel cinematic. It felt quiet, like the calm after a storm you've been standing in so long. You forgot what it was like to be dry. Jess didn't say anything until we were halfway home. I think she was giving me space, or maybe waiting for the inevitable post-confrontation meltdown. But it didn't come. I wasn't sad. I wasn't angry anymore. I was done. That night, I went home, poured a glass of wine, and blocked their numbers. One by one. My mom. My dad. Liam. I didn't write a long message. I didn't explain myself. I just blocked them. Because here's the thing. They knew what they did. They knew for 6 years and never once thought to make it right until they needed something from me. I don't know people like that closure. I don't know them access. I don't know them me. Over the next few weeks, I kept expecting fallout. Angry emails. A surprise visit. Something. But all I got was silence. Maybe they finally got the message. Or maybe they were just regrouping to find a new way to spin themselves as victims. Either way, I didn't care. For once, I wasn't living in fear of them anymore. With that chapter closed, I started making space in my life for the things I actually wanted, things I had never had the freedom to pursue without guilt hanging over my head like a guillotine. I hired a therapist. Real one. One who didn't side-eye me for saying my family left behind me. We unpacked a lot. I finally admitted I had abandonment issues, anxiety, and a deep-seated fear of being unwanted. But I also realized something way more powerful. I wasn't broken. I was conditioned. I wasn't unlovable. I had just been surrounded by people who withheld love unless I fit their narrative. So I started building new relationships. Healthier ones. Jess became more than just my ride or die. She became my chosen family. We celebrated birthdays with wine and mismatched cupcakes. We had Sunday family dinners with people we met through work, neighbors, friends of friends who just needed a safe space to laugh and feel seen. It was the family I never had. The kind you choose. The kind that chooses you back. And career-wise, I was on fire. That article opened doors. I got asked to speak at a panel, then to design for a mid-level gaming studio, then a collab with an indie fashion line. Every success felt like another brick in a wall between me and the people who once told me I'd never amount to anything. Funny how they only believed in me once I proved I didn't need them. And Liam? From what I've heard, yes, the grapevine still exists. He's bounced between jobs. Can't hold one down for long. Still lives at home. Yes, the same house they tried to guilt me into saving. Apparently told some people at a family function that I left behind them for fame. Projection much? But I let that go too. Because his opinion holds the same weight now as it did when I was 16, none. I learned to celebrate my wins without waiting for validation. To love people without wondering when they'd leave. And to walk away from anyone who only values you when you're useful. About a year after that cafe meeting, just when I'd finally hit this groove of real peace, new clients rolling in, weekly game nights with friends, even a weekend trip planned to Tokyo. That's when it happened. Because of course, right? Chaos loves an opening. It was a Tuesday morning. I was sipping coffee, scrolling emails, half listening to lo-fi beats when I saw it. A name I hadn't seen in 7 years pop up in my inbox. Maya Whitfield. My old neighbor. The one who used to drive Liam and me to school when our parents couldn't. The same one who always had cookies on the counter and told me I could come over anytime, though I rarely did, because even back then, I knew the moment I said something too real, it'd probably end up back with my mom. Still, she was kind. Or at least, I thought she was. Subject line. Reaching out after all this time. I didn't open it right away. My heart was racing, thumb hovering. I knew it had to be about them. Who else could it be about? I took a deep breath and clicked. The email started nice enough. Small talk. Hope you're doing well. And saw the magazine feature. So proud of you. But then, like I knew it would, came the real reason. I saw your mom the other day. She didn't recognize me at first. I think the grief has aged her. She said Liam's been in and out of the hospital. Something about suspicious-looking ulcers and depression. I know you probably don't want to hear this, but I thought you should know. They miss you. They talk about you. They regret how things happened. Grief? Ulcers? Regret? It felt like emotional blackmail wrapped in nostalgia. Then came the line that really got me. They're not perfect, but they're still your family. That phrase again. Still your family. As if that title somehow erases everything they did. As if blood automatically earns forgiveness. As if I should feel bad that they're hurting after they left me to bleed alone. I stared at the screen for a long time. Not angry. Just disappointed. Like someone trying to reopen a wound that finally scabbed over. I didn't respond right away. I forwarded the email to Jess. Her exact reply was, Liam can deal with his own karma. Want tacos for dinner? God, I love that woman. But the truth is, part of me wanted to respond. Not to reconnect, not to forgive. Just to say my piece, for real. No sugarcoating. No trying to be the bigger person. Just raw, unfiltered truth. So I did. I wrote Maya back and said this. Thanks for reaching out. I appreciate the update, but I've made peace with the life I had to build from scratch. I didn't get to have a family growing up. I got gaslit, left behind, and left to survive by people who should have protected me. They may miss me now, but where was that love when I was sleeping on benches and barely eating properly? I hope Liam finds peace. I hope my parents heal. But I don't owe them access to my life just because we share DNA. They may still be my family on paper, but I've created something better, a family that chose me, supported me, and believed in me when no one else did. I'm not angry anymore. I'm free. Wishing you well, me. I had sinned and didn't look back. It's strange how silence used to feel like punishment. Back when I was 17, silence meant rejection. It meant being forgotten, unwanted, erased. But now silence feels like peace. It feels like choosing my own noise, what I let in, what I leave out. That first holiday season after Maya's email, I thought I might feel something. Regret, guilt, nostalgia, something. But it was different this time. The ache that used to hover around the end of December like a storm cloud never showed up. There were no gifts from people who didn't know me. No fake smiles at forced dinners. No tension disguised as tradition. Instead, I got something better. Jess invited me to her family's Christmas dinner. It wasn't a pity invite. It was real. She said, "You're coming. Mom already made a whole pan of mac and cheese just for you." Now, I'd met her parents before. Sweet, warm people who treated me like I'd been part of their family since birth. But this was different. This was holiday family energy, the real test. The matching pajamas, passed-down casserole dishes, Secret Santa chaos, and long, loud hugs that smell like cinnamon and laundry detergent. I walked into that house and was instantly swallowed by warmth. Not just from the fireplace or the roast in the oven, but from them. Her mom hugged me like she remembered I didn't grow up with this. Her dad told me to call him Pop if I wanted, and if not, hey you was fine too. Her little cousins ran circles around me, dragging me into board games I didn't understand, but laughed my way through anyway. And when it was time for dinner, there was a folded paper card next to my plate with my name on it. Just a simple little thing, but I stared at it like it was gold. Because someone saved me a seat. No judgment, no caveats, no strings. A seat that said, "You belong here." I cried. Not a lot. Not enough to make it weird. Just that silent kind of crying you do when you realize for the first time in your adult life, you're not waiting for the other shoe to drop. You're not bracing yourself. You're just safe. And I think that was the moment I truly accepted it. Not just that I'd survived. Not just that I'd succeeded. But that I deserved to be loved. Without proving anything. Without shrinking. Without bleeding first. I wasn't planning to see him again. I had closed that chapter, burned the bridge, and walked so far past it I forgot it was even there. But life loves a full circle moment, and mine came on a random Saturday afternoon at a tech convention of all places. I was speaking on a panel about creative entrepreneurship, part of this low-key event for designers and startups. I almost said no when they invited me, but something about the energy felt right. I had just launched a passion project that was finally gaining traction, and I wanted to talk about building something meaningful when everyone around you expects you to fail. I had just finished my talk, grabbed a water, and was walking through the vendor hall when I heard someone say my name, my full name. Not my brand name, not my nickname. The name my parents used to yell from the bottom of the stairs when dinner was ready. I turned around slowly, and there he was. Liam, standing there like he belonged in my world now. Like this was some kind of coincidence that was meant to happen. He looked different. Older, obviously. Tired. His eyes didn't have that same smug sparkle they used to. He looked like life had kicked him around a bit, and he was still waiting for it to stop. I didn't say anything at first. Just looked at him. Let the weight of it settle in. He smiled, this unsure, awkward twitch of a smile that didn't reach his eyes. He said he didn't expect to see me there, that he was just tagging along with a friend who had a booth, and then he saw my name on the brochure. Said he almost didn't come over. Said a lot of things, actually, but none of it mattered. I just watched his mouth move and thought about that night I walked out with a duffel bag and $60, and how he was the reason I had to become a survivor instead of just a teenager. Eventually, he stopped rambling and looked at me the way people look at locked doors they used to have the keys for. Then he said it. The line I had honestly waited years to hear. I'm sorry. He didn't elaborate. No justification, no excuses, no, we were just kids, or, I didn't know it would get that bad. Just those two words, soft and serious and way too late. And for a second, I thought maybe I'd cry or yell or feel something break open in my chest. But I didn't. I just nodded. Not to forgive. Not to forget. Just to acknowledge that he finally said the thing that should have been said the moment he saw my life unravel. He asked if we could talk sometime, grab coffee. Not to rehash everything, he said, just to catch up. I looked him dead in the eye and said, there's nothing to catch up on, and then I walked away. Not stormed. Not ran. Just walked. And as I did, I felt this strange lightness in my body. Like I had just passed a final test I didn't even know I was still taking. I didn't owe him anything. Not my time, not my pain, not my attention. I had built a life so far beyond the reach of his lies that even his apology couldn't touch it. That was the moment I knew I wasn't that scared, invisible kid anymore. I was someone else entirely. Someone whole. Someone free. I used to think closure was something you got from other people. An apology, a confession, a moment where they finally say, you were right and we were wrong. But that's not closure. That's a fantasy. Real closure comes when you stop waiting for the people who broke you to come back and fix it. It comes when you realize their absence isn't a hole in your life. It's just space for something better. I didn't get my life together out of spite, though for a long time, I thought I did. In the early days, it was Inga that got me out of bed. Anger was my fuel. But success built on spite is exhausting. You spend so much time looking over your shoulder, making sure the people who doubted you are still watching, still eating their words. It's only when you stop caring whether they're watching that you really start to live. That's what happened to me. The moment I chose to let go, not forgive, not forget, but release, everything changed. I found clarity. I started loving myself in ways I didn't know were possible. I started building relationships that didn't come with conditions or emotional landmines. I became someone who doesn't just survive, but thrives. Not in spite of what happened, but because I chose not to let it define me anymore. I set boundaries that don't bend. I don't let people back in just because they say the right things. Words don't move me anymore, consistency does. Effort does. And I've learned that sometimes the family you build with your own hands is stronger than the one you were born into. If you're reading this and you've ever been made to feel like you were the problem, like you were disposable, like you weren't good enough, you're not alone. And you're not broken. You're just carrying wounds that weren't yours to begin with. But healing is possible. Not easy. Not linear. But possible. Would I ever open the door again if my parents showed up tomorrow? No. And that's not bitterness. That's self-respect. I don't hate them. I don't wish them harm. But I also don't wish them back. They made their choice when they let me walk away without looking back. And I made mine when I decided to become someone they couldn't hurt anymore. So this is me now. Not a victim. Not a villain in someone else's story. Just a person who got kicked out at 16 because of a lie, built a life from the rubble, and now gets to wake up every day in a home I made for myself. A life filled with real friends, honest love, and dreams that don't have to shrink to fit someone else's expectations. That's my closure. That's my ending. And if you're still clawing your way through it, just know that one day, this pain will be part of a story you tell, not the thing that defines you. You've got time. You've got worth. You've got this. Me.